G'day folks, have you ever heard of a fishing lure called a blade? This is a blade. What is a blade? What is a blade? Why does it have the holes in it? What are the pros and cons? Why should you have a blade? What sort of fish do they catch? Stay tuned because in this video I'm going to answer all of those questions and more. Rightio folks, we all know what a spinner is. A spinner is a lure with a blade that spins, hence the name spinner. A wobbler is a lure that wobbles. A diver is a lure that dives. A blade is a lure that blades. Well, not really. A blade is a lure that vibrates. Sorry, there is a type of lure called a vibe. Wobbles wobble, spinners spin, vibes vibrate. Vibes, probably the most popular type of vibe or commonly used type of vibe is a lipless crankbait. The little fish-shaped things that are full of rattles and they vibrate through the water. They're a vibe. There's masked vibes, there's soft vibes and hard vibes. There's also metal vibes known as blades, and that's what this is. Now, the blade is usually a little fish-shaped bit of metal with lead sides and a lead head to give it weight and a number of holes along the back. Now, what is a blade used for? Here in my part of the world, in northeast Victoria, I have caught a lot of trout on blades. I think they're the most underrated trout lure on the market. They're good for yellowbelly and they're good for redfin, but I'll go a little bit more into that towards the end of the video. Now the blades, if you've seen blades, you'll notice they've got a number of holes along the back. The reason for these holes is to adjust the way the blade works in the water. You can adjust it for different depths and different senses of vibration. For example, the back hole will make the blade sit in a more vertical position because it pulls the blade in from the center of the blade instead of the front of the blade. So it makes it sit more upright. What that does is create a lot more drag, and that extra drag creates a much harder vibration, and it also pulls the lure up. It's a sinking lure, the blade, so the extra drag will enable it to swim a lot shallower. So the back hole gives you stronger vibrations and shallower swimming. So that is ideal in shallow water or in lakes with lots of weed beds. That will enable you to fish the blade above the weed beds without it getting fouled up. That's the back hook. The front hole is the total opposite. It helps the blade sit in more of a horizontal position, which will enable it to sink a lot better. The blade isn't a diving lure, it's a sinking lure. So the front hole has it more of a horizontal position, which creates less drag and allows the blade to sink more freely. So the front hole, less vibration but deeper water. Good for lakes if you're chasing redfin in lakes or fish species that sit near the bottom and you want to retrieve your lure along the bottom. You can cast it out, crank it in for a couple of meters, then just pause it and let it sink. Give it another couple of meters, pause it and let it sink. If you use the back hole for that, it will rise too much in those couple of meters and just lift it straight off the bottom. So the front hole is for deep water, but it's less vibrations. The back hole gives you maximum vibrations and allows you to fish it in shallower water. And the middle hole, well, that's just an average of the two. Some lures, some blades, smaller blades in particular, may only have 2 holes. Some even have 1, some of the cheaper brands. Some might have 4 and even 5 holes. And all they are different steps or different degrees of parallelness, is that a word? Different degrees of which angle you can have the lure in the water. But no matter how many holes you've got, back is for more of an upright, stronger vibration, shallow water. Front hole, more horizontal, more sinking, less vibration, deeper water. Now, what are the pros and cons to using a blade? Well, the downside to blades is that they can be a little bit prone to tangling. I've used quite a number of different types of blades over the years and they all tangle. Some tangle a bit more than others, but most of them tangle. There is an upside, or there is a way to try and minimize this. You can downsize the hooks. You might just want to put a smaller hook on the front or a smaller hook on the back. That will help prevent tangling. And when you cast the lure out, if you can stop the line before the blade hits the water, that will enable it to pull tight and hit the water, which will also decrease the likelihood of getting tangled. So you can downsize your hooks, stop your lure just before it hits the water to help straighten it out, and they will minimize your tangling, but all blades will tangle to a degree. So if you've gone out and bought a blade and you find it tangles, don't be upset because most of them do tangle at some point. That's probably the only real downside. The upside to blades is that they're usually quite cheap. These ones here, this was sent to me in my mail time segment last week by Jigglefishing in Melbourne. I'll put a link to it below, but I think I looked at the website and it was about $8.50 or something like that, which is quite cheap in comparison with a lot of other blades. So that's one upside. Probably the biggest upside to blades is they cast through the air like bullets. You give them a good heave and they just go and go and go. Nothing casts as far as a blade. If you've got a 7-gram blade or a 7-gram jig head, the 7-gram blade will cast further every time because it doesn't catch any wind. It just cuts through the air like a hot knife cuts through butter. Whereas the jig head, being round, will catch a little bit more wind. It'll still cast well, but it won't cast as well. A 7-gram hard body lure, like a minnow of some kind, won't cast anywhere near as far as a 7-gram blade. So blades are great if you're in lakes and you want to maximise your casting distance. You can't beat blades. So the biggest ups and downs, the biggest downside is that they do tangle a bit. The biggest upside is that they cast a mile. Now let's get back to the species and what species I like them for. I've probably caught more trout on blades than anything else. In my honest opinion, blades are probably the most underrated trout lure on the market. I have caught a lot of trout in Lake Dartmouth and in Lake William Hovell, as well as a few rivers and creeks in the area. I find in streams you must use the back hole because they're normally too shallow and the blades will sink and hit the rocks and snag up. So the back hole's better in streams, but trout will climb all over blades in streams every bit as much as they do in lakes. I've had mornings up on Lake William Hovell where I've caught 9 or 10 trout using blades. So they're the most underrated trout lure on the market in my opinion, but they're also very good for redfin and yellowbelly or golden perch or callop if you're from South Australia. And I'm sure most of you will understand why. Both of those species love metallic spinners. They love spinner baits, they love bladed spinners, so why wouldn't they love blades? I've caught a lot of yellowbelly on blades in some of the stocked lakes in the region, and I've caught a lot of redfin on blades once again at Lake William Hovell, up at Lake Buffalo and at Lake Hume. So great for redfin, trout and yellowbelly. I think a big blade would be good for Murray cod. I've never caught a cod on a blade. I've never tried a big enough blade. But I do think that snagging would be a problem. It's hard to see how a metallic lure that doesn't float isn't going to foul up on the many logs that the cod like to live around. I think the cod would certainly like them and would certainly hit them, but whether they are ideal in snaggy situations where cod live, I can't say. Alright folks, hopefully this video has helped you out and answered a few questions. Blades, definitely worth a try. Give them a crack, particularly if you're going trout fishing in lakes. Don't overlook blades. Thanks very much for watching. If you've liked this video, why not give me a thumbs up and drop a comment below and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.